Welcome back to Done with Depression. Today we're talking about Eminem songs that I related to as an adolescent. So, again, just reminding you guys this isn't a video of anger aimed at anyone. This is just my experience that I had growing up and how I felt as an adolescent. It doesn't mean it was right or wrong, it was just how I felt and some of the anger and problems that I was going through at the time. So check out these and hopefully you like it. So for me, this part of the song is really like already putting pressure on you to do better than your parents did. And you already have these expectations that you have to be better or outperform whatever they did as adults or as children. And I really struggled a lot with this because a lot of times I didn't have that male influence in my life, or I didn't have that strong fatherly figure that I needed, and that influenced how I grew up a little bit. And also, a lot of the examples that I had weren't great examples. There was a lot of um, do as I say, not as I do, or oh, I did that, but it's not okay for you to do that in some instances. And it was really difficult to have the expectation of doing better without having the examples of how to do better, I guess. I did take away some good examples from both my parents, but I remember thinking about how each generation is supposed to be better, and it has to take a strong individual to kind of break the circle of circumstances that are going on. And I remember just thinking that that was a lot of pressure and that maybe I wasn't going to be able to do that. So, cleaning out my closet really reminds me of my parents' divorce when I was a baby. My dad never completely left, like in the song, but to me, it felt like he did leave, only having me on the weekends or every other weekend, and I felt like he didn't fight for me. And so to me, he was almost as good as gone because he didn't fight for me and he wasn't necessarily the dad that I needed or the dad that I wanted. And then the second part of the verse really shows a lot of anger towards his situation. And I remember feeling a lot of anger when I was younger and not necessarily knowing that it was anger, but just not knowing how to really express your emotions. And in the verse, he uses some really strong language, but I feel like it's just kind of the same, not knowing how to really express how you're feeling. And so it just comes out as anger and as violence. And I remember as a kid thinking to myself how I would feel if my dad actually died, especially in the times where I wasn't really talking to him. I thought about that a lot and how I would feel if the last time I saw him was really the last time that I saw him. So this verse kind of means a lot to me, not knowing how to experience or your emotions and really put your emotions out there, and it just coming out as anger or violence. So this verse kind of combines the first verse that I used and the second verse. You have to live up to these expectations. You don't have the example, and you just know that you don't want to be like the example you have. So it's kind of like a confusing sort of thing, especially when you're growing up and trying to figure out what you want to be, who you want to be, what your morals and values are, who you can trust, who you can put your faith in, who you want to be your friends, all of that sort of thing. So for me, a lot of my childhood, I knew what I didn't want to be, but I didn't really know what I wanted to be. And even up until recently, that was a lot of the struggle that I was going through, is not knowing who I am, not knowing what I wanted to do, not knowing who I wanted to be, because I was living someone else's life of what they wanted me to be. So again, a lot of the struggle comes out in anger, and for me it came out in depression and isolation, but I can really relate to this verse for that. So this one still really affects me today as well, and a father who has grown up with a fatherless past is something that I just don't really know how to deal with. I'm 29 now. I don't have any children yet, but if I did have a child, like, what examples do you go by? What are you supposed to do? I'm still trying to figure out myself, and I don't know how I would be able to set that example for someone else when I'm still trying to figure out myself, and also not having the best examples or the dad that I wanted. I just don't know how I would do it. There's always, well, I'm not going to be like that, or I'm not going to do this, but sometimes knowing what you're not going to do is helpful, but it's not necessarily the right thing. It's like if you're always looking at the bad stuff and you're like, well, it could be worse. Like, yeah, it could be worse, but that's not bringing out a lot of positives either. So I still struggle with this one today, and I hope you guys can understand that out there. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and leave a comment in the section below if there's any songs that you can relate to, whether it's Eminem or not. If we get enough likes and subscribers, I can do a part 2 of this video as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great day.